Hello Pisces, and welcome to your in-depth monthly horoscope for June 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you the standout details to look out for, but please stay with me. I will explore in detail all the ins and outs, particularly relevant to your sign. And of course, your ruler traditionally is Jupiter. Your co-regent is Neptune, and they're both going to be incredibly influential this month. In fact, through the first 10 days, Jupiter's in a glorious conjunction with the North Node, which can prove very helpful to you if you're trying to communicate anything that's really important to you, or you're exchanging messages with somebody you like. Also, Jupiter forges an impressive angle with Saturn in your sign for the whole of the month. But Neptune, your other ruler, your other co-ruler, is a more drifting, dreamy influence, and that does clash big time with the new moon, which occurs on the 18th, and that does provide some challenges. So lots to share with you, but lots of exciting stuff too. So please stay with me for more. If you're a returning visitor, thank you so much for joining me once more. If you're new here, it's great to have you with me. This is very much a community, so please do feel that you can share any comments. I try to interact with each one, but please also click on or tap on the subscribe button. This means every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Also, if you would like to get your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, totally free, you can sign up for your Sun or your Ascendant or both. The choice is yours. Please see the link below. And if you would like to ascend above this zodiac broadcast and really embrace more serious astrology and the power of it and how it can influence your future so helpfully, if you give me 3 pieces of personal birth data of time, date and place of birth, I can provide for you your life roadmap report. This can help you to get a much more intimate understanding of the patterns that have impacted on your journey so far, but also how you can capitalize on your strength and avoid some of the challenges that may have repeated themselves. Also, my special package of 30% off, you can get your 12-month personal forecast, totally unique to you, which will give you searing insights for the months to come. If you don't know your time, my new solar package works in the same way, 30% off, the life roadmap and the forecast, but this is based on your sun. And if you enjoy sun sign astrology videos on YouTube, this is going to be something that you easily relate to, but can still give you some incredibly valuable insights. Please see the links below for more. So Pisces, as you make your way into June, so the Sun is in house 4. That's very much about being mindful of your immediate environment, issues to do with security, physical or emotional, your home, whether it's in terms of the domestic routines or in terms of just feeling comfortable and at ease. And it can also be to do with your emotional world and your links to people that you're close to, whether it is blood relatives or your extended family. But also, as I mentioned before, the conjunction between Jupiter and the North Node suggests that if you do have siblings or neighbours that you're particularly fond of, the chances are you can have some really lovely connections right at the start of this month. Or if there is something that you want to express your knowledge around, the chances are that people can be very receptive to what you have to say. But also Venus is in a very romantic but also sociable part of your situation through to the 5th, but it is across 2 zodiac signs broadly in an opposition with the planet of power, Pluto, which starts this month for you, nestling in a more sheltered zone, house 12, but it does invert in its retrograde from the 11th back into the sign of Capricorn, where it was since 2008 for 15 years through to the 23rd of March. But that opposition between Venus and Pluto is really fascinating because it can turn up the intensity. Is some of the conversation that Jupiter in the North Node is going to trigger going to have a romantic component? For some people, I think it truly can. For others, it may just be a greater awareness of who is really meaningful in terms of your affections, but that doesn't necessarily have to mean in just a purely loving way in regards to a close, intimate relationship. But on the 4th, we do have a full moon, and it's a full moon which is going to make it difficult for you to disguise how you feel, because although the collection of energy in the sign of Taurus is very bubbly and effervescent and outgoing, the sun position in house 4 is more guarded. But because the moon is in the 10th house, that makes your feelings much closer to the surface, and you could have a classic work-life balance issue to attend to. So the bubbliness that's coming through Taurus needs to work into the more protective energies of the sun in your 4th house, but the moon position is really asking you to be mindful of your connection to the wider world. So it could be that work is putting extra demands upon you when there may be part of you that just does want to enjoy those very close links and bonds. But then on the 5th, Venus starts an extremely long and quite rare 4-month journey through the sign of Leo. And this is going to go on through to the 9th of October. But for you, this is the part of your situation that's to do with practicalities. And you already have Mars in this sector. Mars, of course, is a very thrusting, energetic, sometimes impatient energy. But it's good to have it in the 6th house. It can encourage you to up your physical activities, or to find the right type of role for that very caring nature that you often have when it comes to your professional activities. So Venus moving to join with Mars. Mars is going to be here through to the 10th of July, but Venus, because of a retrograde which begins on the 23rd of July and goes on through to the 4th of September, spends this extended period in your sector of obligations to others, your health and physical well-being, anything to do with appointments, but also crucially pets. So if you have been considering getting a new addition for the family of a furry kind, I think that this summer in the Northern Hemisphere or winter in the Southern Hemisphere could see that lovely new companion arriving in your home and in your affections. But also, I mentioned before in the introduction that Jupiter, your traditional ruler, is in a terrific angle with Saturn all through this month. What does that mean? Well, since Saturn pitched up in your sign on March the 7th, particularly if you're born nearer to the start of the sign of Pisces, you may have found that your energy was actually a little lower. You may have felt a little bit more restrained. You may even have felt a bit more confined or lacking a little bit of the joie de vivre that you might ordinarily like to possess. Now this could be true in terms of the whole sign energy of Pisces for other Pisces people born later, because there can be personal planets floating around beyond the sun that could be impacted by Saturn. So if you have been feeling a little bit less vibrant, what Jupiter can do in your 3rd house is lift the more cautious energy of Saturn and balance it out. Jupiter can be very exuberant, particularly through its rulership of Sagittarius, but its rulership of your sign is more to do with ideas, spiritual themes, our communication sometimes in a more ethereal way. So the link between the very earthy Saturn through its rulership of Capricorn and the more floaty energies of Jupiter, but in the Earth sign of Taurus, suggests that you could be very pragmatic in balancing endeavour and enterprise Jupiter with the practical reality Saturn. So I think that's a really good offset. However, on the 11th, Mercury moves out of the buzzy, quick-moving 3rd house for you of Taurus into its home zone, or one of its 2 home zones of Gemini. But this for you is house 4. Now this does potentially have some catches, because Mercury in the 4th house gets more emotional, even though it's house for you in the area Gemini, and it can get a little bit more difficult to articulate how we feel, the 4th house, or it could be that some of our emotional thinking is just circulating around our mind, creating some inertia, and that's something you need to guard against. However, in week, also on the 11th, I should say, that Pluto does go retrograde into the sign of Capricorn. It was already retrograde, but this inversion now takes it back into Capricorn, and it won't return back to your 12th house until the 21st of January next year. So it's back in your sector of friendship, but right at the end of that sector. And also in week 3, the Sun, as it advances in your sector of home emotion, is actually angling up in a tense way to Pluto. And then on the 17th, Saturn slams on the brake through to the 4th of November in your sign. Again, if you're born right at the start of Pisces, you could find that some of the things that you've wanted to achieve just seem a little harder to find that spark or get-go than even earlier in the month. But again, I refer to Jupiter. Jupiter can be a lovely offset. However, on the 18th, the new moon in your 4th house could be a time when you are seriously thinking about redecoration, family gatherings, adding to your family, or perhaps even relocating. But it does square up to Neptune. And in fact, in week 3, not only does the Sun quincunx Pluto, it also squares Neptune. So Neptune can be very dispersing and confusing and bewildering in some ways, as well as incredibly sensitive, enlightening and compassionate. And Pluto, of course, is very much about power, but not necessarily obvious power. So I feel that with your 4th house sector at this point of the month, influenced by both the Sun and Mercury, how things feel, you need to try to work things through, not get overwhelmed by different options. I think Neptune applying to the new moon can disperse some of its benefits. So in some ways you might want to make some changes, but find it difficult to actually find the get-go to see them through. However, redemption comes in a big way for you, Pisces, on the 21st. We have the gorgeous summer solstice. The Sun glides into the sign of Cancer, which shares your water triplicity. But this one does also quincunx with Pluto. So over the next 13 weeks of this second cardinal quadrant of the Western tropical calendar, because Western tropical astrology is predicated on the seasons, not on the moving constellations, I think that you do have an opportunity to be more playful and fun-loving and interactive and social, perhaps even to enjoy some romantic moments. But because of the quincunx with Pluto, it is important to understand that that makes it more difficult to integrate what you're trying to do. And for example, you could be prevented in terms of having fun or your romantic situation from some deeply felt past hurts and blockages. And if that's the case, this would be an excellent quarter to really try to work those through. Now Mercury is going to really help you on the 28th, because paradoxically it moves out of one of its most sparkling zones, Gemini, into one of its least effective areas, Cancer, watery. But for you, this actually works really well. This is the 5th house. You're going to find your sense of humour really is bubbling to the fore as the month draws to a close. Also, Jupiter links brilliantly with the Sun, one of the most fortunate of all planetary aspects, the last 3 days. And also Saturn in your sign. Yes, the planet that has such a dark reputation, but actually if we really work with it, can be such an asset. That's linking brilliantly with the Sun as well. This tells you that if you're matching your creativity and flair with practicality, organisation and precision, you can make significant progress. In the last 10 days of this month, it is true that the restless Uranus in your 3rd house, which has been affecting your nervous system probably quite a lot since 5 months 218, since March 219, again depending on where your planets are. If you have felt on edge, finding it hard to switch off or sleep, had a little bit too much cortisol rushing around your system, not a complete surprise. Well, that is clashing with Mars, so you could actually have quite an excess of nervous energy towards the end of this month. But if you can burn it off in some kind of positive, productive way, you know, through walking, through cycling, through swimming, it doesn't have to be heavy impact exercise. That can be a good thing. And then with Venus combining with Mars at the end of this month, I thought that your people skills and the fact that you can be very sacrificing for others when the cause really calls out for you, could see your personality really shine through in a way which really does impress a potential employer, or you could meet someone romantically in the most practical and unintended or unexpected location you could possibly think of, and it could happen just in a completely random way. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Pisces. Thank you so much for joining me. Please like, comment or subscribe.